Good day.
Hello, hello.
How's Cam?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I have no complaints. And Debbie, click Debbie in when she joins. She's on another call right now. She should be right at the top of the hour popping in.
All right, and there's Dianne.
Yay, we were just chatting.
Is that Cameron?
It is. How are you?
Hi, Cameron. It's been a while.
I know. It's been some time. How are you?
I know, because I stopped doing a lot of radio shows, so I wasn't on all your great hosts. But I'm doing good, and I always remember you. So
thank you. I do too.
Good to hear your voice.
How could you forget Cameron? You just cannot.
Dianne, that's
forget Cameron,
right?
And you've got the good radio host.
Did you used to do a show? Did you used to do a show, Dianne, on Contact Talk Radio?
No, but I've been on so many shows that a lot of the hosts are on Contact Talk Radio.
That's right.
So every time I always connected with Cameron.
Well, we ought to get you your own show, though.
Well, I don't know. It seems like a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you basically, Cam makes it so easy. You just show up and you pick a topic and you do a little bit of research. And if you're heart-centered and you're connected to the all, and those questions seem to flow out of that blue place, it just makes for great radio. It's all about connecting and creating those vibrations.
That's true.
That's what it's. That's what I do.
I'll think about it, Cameron. You never know.
Maybe we should have a conversation then, Dianne, because I really think you'd be great. And it doesn't have to be a radio show. You can also do just a podcast on its own.
Yeah. Oh, really? Because my husband wants to. My husband, Dianne Collins, is my business partner. He's a master QuantumThink coach. And he wants to do he wants us to do a podcast. He goes, the Alan and Dianne show. I said, you mean the Dianne and Alan show?
The Dianne and Alan show. Yeah, that's better.
So our friends make fun.
We should really talk because we have over 170 podcasters.
Right.
Right. That's what I mean. There's so much competition that isn't marketing is everything.
No, it's really all about the content of the back end, and that's what we do. It's all about the back end.
Okay. So, okay. We'll have a conversation.
A connection has been established.
All right, here we go. Stand by.
Talk radio. Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here, leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and like all of you know, and if you're new, I'm going to tell you that's because I woke up this morning and decided and chose to make it a groovy day. So everything that has occurred so far today has been groovy, and I can trust and totally have the utmost confidence that it will be groovy for the rest of the day. And I have a really groovy guest for you today, and I can see that I have my really groovy co-host, and her mic is muted, so maybe I'll give her this signal. There she goes. It's Coach Debbie. And how's Coach Debbie today?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I've been on Zoom all day.
Here we are, zooming again.
I'm excited to see you both and talk about the quantum world. Thanks for having me.
Here's Debbie. Debbie was unable to attend our green room meeting before the show. I always like to connect with the guests before the show because it makes such, it's just really pleasant, and I don't want my guests to feel like they've been processed, and I really like to connect with them. And so I was having a discussion, Debbie, today with our guest, Dianne Collins. You can see her there. Look at that pretty smile.
Hi, Debbie. Hello, everyone.
Hi, lovely.
And she made the comment, she said, and right out of the gate, Oh, I remember doing a show with you and Debbie years ago.
Yeah,
and,
it was.
And you guys were just awesome. I don't remember
Oh.
her exact words, but so that's how impressionable we as a team are with our guests. It's kind of cool, huh?
It's so nice to be remembered, Dianne, as we, of course, remember you. And I want to even say that we intentionally had you on to help people through the holidays.
Oh,
if
right.
I remember that right.
Oh, okay. You know, I told Todd I was going to look up the show, and then, you know, things got busy as they are for everyone these days. And I thought, I know I was on. Oh, Todd and Debbie. Actually, I did say it was awesome, but the exact quote myself was, and I loved you and Debbie. And that's true.
There you go.
Such great work in so many ways.
Yeah.
Thanks for the love.
Debbie is also known as Coach Debbie. So Debbie, just before we get in too much discussion with Dianne, clue us in. What's going on in Coach Debbie land?
Coach Debbie land. I love calling it that. Well, I also have a radio show called Story You Talk Radio, and that's just a place to.
Where did you ever get that idea? How did you ever get that idea?
I got that idea from fearless Todd Allen, who took me on a life coaching program, and I decided to take the skills I had gleaned as a college professor and step out on my own, and I help people write their books. And right now, I want people to know we got 20 weeks left in the year. It is not too late to finish up your book this year and to start next year with a clean and lovely draft that you can hand over to the editor, the agent, whoever you choose, and get that book out into the world. So that's what I help people do. I think of myself as like the Olympics coach. You know, I'm not necessarily competing in the Olympics, but boy, do I know how to get you there and help you to that medal. So that's what I do.
You know, I was thinking about it last night. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about my mom, my dear sweet mother. And I was thinking, gosh, she has such an incredible life, and she's done some amazing things.
Oh, yeah.
And here it's left up to me to try and remember those things and pass those on. I mean, basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is true, that when you write a book from your heart about you, about your life, whatever it is that you're compelled to write about, you create a legacy.
You do create a legacy, and that's a huge reason why people in the past have written their books and then they've circulated it handwritten through the family.
Right, and stored.
And it didn't get published. And now what you can do is go through a much faster process, self-publish it, and every single relative from the now to the end of time can have a copy of that book. So that
who was she, right?
What's that?
Oh, I was just thinking, you know, in today's world with Me Too, or not Me Too, what's that She
DNA
Rises? Huh?
With She Rises?
No, with the DNA test, right? Because people are trying to figure out, well, who was this person and who are they? Yeah. Oh, what did you say?
23andMe, it's called.
Yeah.
23andMe.
So with that really popular in our world today, you know, you'd think people would have a book that would just tell them, oh, this person is this person, and this is what they're about. I just think it's an incredible idea.
It's really fun to help people create that. I'm working with someone in that capacity right now, and it's a journey through all the farmers, and they're going through the whole bootlegging thing, and then the alcoholic story and the family story and the wives and the whole thing, and then the current system and how they've establish their values now and how they want to pass that on to the future. And it's really, really cool to talk to people that are as young as 10 wanting to pipe in on the book, and as old as, almost 90 years old. So there's so much that's possible today with a book. So that's what I do. I help people see the possibilities.
Dianne, look at Debbie when she talks about it. See that big smile on her face?
Yes.
You can just feel the energy exuding out.
I know this is Debbie's time, but I have to tell you this because this relates to what you're doing and what you're talking about. And that legacy book, because I did that with my dad.
Oh.
Who, rest in peace. And my mom's still alive. And I did it with but what happened is I started a family legacy by saying, Dad, let's do a book. And, he was already in his 90s. I said, we can get like a ghostwriter but it's so important to have someone like you, Debbie, for that support, because maybe a person can do it themselves or they could record it. There's so many ways, as you said. But what I wanted to just say quickly is I created this whole family weekend with the kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids of theirs. And it was awesome. It was a big surprise. And I set up with a chair and the microphone. He did a book signing for the whole family.
Wow.
And it has been incredible because all those little kids in our family have that book. And then we did it with my mom, and they love it because it gives them a second life. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations.
Totally. And they live on for eternity. Yeah, very cool. So
thank you.
To connect with Debbie, go to coachdebbie.com and you can find out all of her information. She has workshops. She'll work one-on-one. There are a plethora, there's a good word, a plethora of ways that you can work with Coach Debbie and get that book that's inside you out into the world.
And it's
right?
DEBBY.
DEBBY. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.com or .net, either one, and any links or anything that we talk about with today's guests will be right there, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. As a matter of fact, everything's already there, I do believe, because I put it there myself. I had a groovy day on Friday and put everything up there. So on with the show. Are you ready, Debbie? While you're there, visiting lifemasteryradio.com, if you look over on the right-hand side, there's a link to my book. Todd wrote a book, and guess who helped me write that book? I wonder who that was. Coach Debbie. But you can click on that link, go right to Amazon. Love my book, and I would really appreciate some feedback on what you think about it. So while you're there, you can do that. And the newsletter, of course, Jackie Bailey. Big shout out to Jackie Bailey. She's working with the kids for the rest of this month. She does the newsletter every week and makes sure it gets published and does a really, really great job. Okay, I think I've swept the house. I think I've house cleaned enough. On with the show. Our guest today is Dianne Collins, and she wrote an amazing book, but Dianne is an original thinker, media personality, and one of the foremost thought leaders of our time. She is a master of translating ancient knowledge into quantum, modern wisdom that provides a transformative platform for the way we conduct our business and personal affairs. Dianne is the creator and author of the book called QuantumThink, a new system of thinking that will help us leap from the outdated old world view, I just love that, limits of the industrial age to begin thinking from a more accurate and up-to-date new world view of our current quantum age. Along with her husband and business partners, she consults visionary leaders and executives in the world's leading corporations, including Accenture, AT&T, CNN, DuPont, and many others, as well as presenting QuantumThink to entrepreneurs and students, homemakers, and professionals, celebrities, and evolutionaries worldwide. The name of the book, again, is Do You Quantum Think? new thinking that will rock your world. Yay! Hi, Dianne. Look at that smile. She's just beaming with that big smile and that radiant energy. How are you today, my friend?
I am absolutely fantastic. Or I was, we tell the people who, we live in a condominium, who work in the building every day, and they say, how are you? I say, excelente, because I live in Miami.
Excelente.
It's bilingual, excelente. And they love it, just hearing that.
Dianne, I've heard you described as a great thought leader and philosopher and, you know, a visionary. And of course, we'll coin you as the quantum thinker or the teacher of quantum think. But how did this all get started? Did you know at an early age that you had this ability to really think about what people are thinking about?
Well, I knew I was thinking about it. Well, I'll give the short version.
Okay.
I woke up in life when I got old enough to look around what was going on in the world, and I realized there was this great disconnect between how we aspire to be, how we want to live the virtues, and all the great books and scriptures and philosophies of the world from ancient through modern times. And yet we weren't exactly living it. Now, you don't need me to tell you that, because all you have to do is turn on, you know, the internet, the news, your notifications in your phone, and you know what I'm talking about. So that my quest was, we have the wisdom, we know what to do, we know how to be. How do we go from merely knowing it like a concept to actually living it, to being the walking, talking embodiment of this great wisdom and this greatness that every single one of us aspires to be. Even the people who, you know, who we see end up being, quote, you know, I don't think there are any bad people, but the people who end up exhibiting, manifesting, you know, undesirable behaviors, because we know even when you talk with them under certain conditions, they want the best. We all want the best. So that was my quest. And that led me to, I said it was going to be the short story, but it led me to, as you think, so you become. And I thought, well, all you got to do is change your thought to change the world. Again, why does it still look the way it does? Why is my life? And I discovered what I call my great revelation, that though we imagine we think freely and independently, and in every moment we do have that choice, but that we are actually, for the most part, not choosing our habits of thinking, because our habits of thinking are conditioned by the overarching worldview, to make it very simple, what we believe to be true about the nature of reality, how it works, what's possible, what's not, and our role in it. So that led me to create QuantumThink, so that I could put it all together and say, okay, we can do this.
Right. Well, I love your analogy that our thinking is like back in the industrial age. And, you know, I was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, you know, it really even goes further back than that. Our thinking today compared to our advances today, like our technological advances and our communication advances and so our thinking, though, is still like rock and stick to me, based on your analogy, the industrial age. We're like you described, being influenced, our choices are influenced and reactionary and not very wholehearted. And yet here we are in this changing world that is just rapidly changing at fast pace, day by day by day. I think, you know, we are exposed to the same amount of information in a day that our grandparents were exposed to in a year or two. Truly. And we haven't caught up yet. We are still stuck. Maybe you could drill down in that just
Yes, certainly. Well, that was the idea, is that we're in a quantum age. To sum up what you just said so brilliantly, we're in a quantum age, and yet we're still very much, as a humanity, as a culture, influenced by the industrial age worldview. Well, what does that mean? That was 17th century scientific thinking that said, they declared literally, even though the scientists, Isaac Newton and whoever, QuantumThink, by the way, is not about science. It's about how the discoveries of science shape the way we think and how we can use, as you're saying, our technology is ahead of our thinking right now, but we're bringing it up to speed, right?
That's what your job is, right?
That we all are.
Right.
But what happened is that the scientists of the age, I was going to say, even though they were spiritual, like on the side, but they said only physical matter is real. And so our orientation of all our institutions, our educational institution, our judicial, I'll show you how that works, government, that it got oriented around these assumptions that was basically, when you look in the physical dimension, and just from a quantum worldview, we're in multi-dimensional physical, which all the things you talk about with guests on your show, physical, subtle energy, virtual of mind and consciousness, spiritual of the heart, cosmic of the operating principles, esoteric of the soul. These are the ones I distinguish in Do You Quantum Think, and divine of the sacred. So, but we're not thinking and living from that, that full mental multidimensionality, because when you look at, and it may sound like a stretch, but maybe not. When you look at racism and any kind of bigotry that we're dealing, that's being exposed today, that you realize when you look in the physical, we look different, we look separate. And that's what they said in the science, that objects are solid and fixed, and you have to push and pull I call it a circumstance to get something to happen. So right. We're pushing and pulling and analyzing and this and that. And either or, right? You're either, guilty or you're not, or just take an education. In a physical only is real world, what do we study? We're not studying what I call the natural faculties of mind: intent, intuition, subtle energy, resonance, meditation. It's starting now, thank goodness, but what do we study? The physical matter, the brain, maybe the electrical connections. So now that's what I'm talking about, the expansion. So you say, how do we catch up? Why is it important to quantum think? Because what you were saying, Todd, there's so much more information. Everything is speeding up. The systems and structures are undergoing a literal restructuring. I'm an avid student of astrology and planetary energy systems.
Very cool.
For many years. So these are things I study, the patterns of the energy and how it's shaping us. And you say, well, how am I going to catch up when I'm thinking step by step? Well, we're not. So we literally make that quantum leap, and it's not an either or, it's a both and. We're not giving up analytical thinking, step-by-step how-tos. We are expanding, and we're looking and thinking from, if I can use, for example, and really get to master. I love life mastery. I love that term on your radio show. Because it really is about that. It's like, if I can master my intuitive faculty, then I can get directly to the information I need. You go online, where am I doing? I can't do an analytical search. I have to be a little bit intuitive. Which email am I going to read? And this is how it works. And you start to get yourself so attuned, your consciousness so awakened. Contact Talk Radio. I love Cameron, the owner. And, it really is about awakening our consciousness. So that's what my work is about. How it's giving a method to do that.
And the method includes a lot of intentionality.
That's what she said.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that intuition meets the intention.
That's exactly right, Debbie, because intent, and I make a distinction between intent and intention. Okay, it sounds like wordsmithing, but it's just to, I call the art of distinguishing a new worldview of learning. Because when we make distinctions, it gives us access. So, for example, if you distinguish your purpose and you start to see all the nuances and all the connections in your life that led you to where you are today to live your purpose, that's what I call distinguishing. And distinguishing makes things more powerful, stronger. So I make this distinction between intent and intention. Intention being the measurable, more exact end result, and intention being the activation of the energy intelligent conscious field. So you could also say that's resonance. But I like what you said, Debbie, because intent and intuition, all the natural faculties of mind, which are faculties of consciousness, are not just the brain as the transmitter receiver, but the faculties that we're talking about now, that intent and intuition are related, as are all the other five. So when you create a statement of intent, Todd, you wake up every day, you come on the show, you remind people, it's groovy. Today, I'm having a groovy experience. And why? Because you created it that way. So this is different. This is the difference from the QuantumThink teaching, so to speak, perspective of positive thinking and intent, that it's always good to have positive thoughts. But if we have a positive thought, like an affirmation, but we're still holding in our intent body, right? In our resonant field is another way of saying it. The negative belief that we've latched onto, like it's the absolute truth, which it isn't. But let's say we don't know, and automatically we're bringing that kind of baggage with us. And then you say, well, today is a glorious day. But if I have the negative belief, well, how do I know it's going to be glorious? Well, what if it's, but I don't know. I got this bill in the mail I wasn't expecting, or, whatever it is, or my computer wrote down. How can it be a glorious day? Then you're not really believing like an affirmation, today is a glorious day. But from a quantum worldview, very, very important, since it is a view of energy in flux, informed by intelligence. You and I, people, human beings, we are blessed by being the focal point of being able to direct that energy intelligence through our own awareness and through our thinking, that we can say, well, I forgot to tell you the important point, is that because everything is always shifting and changing, it's the nature of, the quantum reality, that we are not stuck with any fixed circumstances, including our own beliefs. So the difference, just to wrap that one point up about positive thinking and like covering up a negative thought, a negative belief, and quantum thinking or creating from intent, is that that your intent, your statement of intent, today's a groovy day, and I'm feeling groovy, that is a chosen context. You are choosing to live that as the context for your life today.
Right.
That's the difference.
I feel like it's so connected to a lot of the work that I teach people, which is that with the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell wanted us to understand that you can follow your bliss. And it's sort of like saying, you know, instead of just figuring out how to get to point A to point B, I think I'll go with a GPS system. And I think I'll trust that GPS, my bliss, will get me there better than if I just run in circles until I end up at a desired destination. And this is what I think a lot of the quantum teachers are expressing, and that is, why not simplify your method of thinking? Don't bypass your emotions, just simplify your method and see how the rest of you follows suit, because it probably wants to, you know?
Well, absolutely. That's our multidimensional intelligence. And I love the way you're saying it. So I do want to point out, like, we don't give up ordinary logic.
No.
To me, it's logic plus intuition. So what you're saying is, like, I think of us, Debbie, as we're like this, our body, which, you know, extends out. We don't end at the edge of our skin. But our body is like this big sensing device. So it's what you're saying. When we realize, and then we're tuning in, you know, intuition. And I love, and also I laugh because when Todd and I were talking before, and he asked me about a word, and I used that word bliss, and then you just brought it up around
the power. See, that's the power working.
Right. That's what we call the non-local minefield. And we're all connected because we all came in with an intent to have a show that would inspire, that would, you know, bring people to good action in their own, you know, in all of our lives. I always include us as well, so that we're connecting for that intent, for that purpose. Anyway, to follow your bliss, that beautiful line that he left part of his great legacy, Joseph Campbell, with that. Yeah, because, well, how do you do that? How do you follow your bliss? It's what you and I are saying. You tune in, and that's the subtle energy aspect of mind, is that we can tune into energy and we can transform it. We can transmute it. We can be like alchemists and take a mucky energy, a dense energy, and with our own awareness, with our own intent, we can make that, we can turn that energy into a higher state. And this is so important, what you're saying, Debbie, and what you're teaching, because in our world today, and Todd, you and I were talking about this a little bit before, that people, and you know, the idea of working with young people, so important, but all of us, every age group, and I know millennials that I read about all the time are having a very, you know, challenging time.
It's change, though. It isn't it, Dianne? We're in the middle of this change, and I don't think we get to know how we don't want to be until we get there. And I think we're there. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're offering these tools that certainly can pave the way for people to realize there is a different way of thinking.
Exactly. And I think that shows like yours and the work that Debbie is doing, what you're doing on your own, and Todd, what you're doing in your book, where we're putting what, like, to use the media term, a new narrative into the world, because people are confused, scared. And as you're saying, Todd, it's you know, we all know this intuitively. I mean, you don't have to be, as they say, a rocket scientist. You don't have to look in the world and see that things are changing. But I think because when you look at it from a quantum think perspective, which of course is, you know, my lens, that the institutions that we're living with today, you know, the either or, conservative or liberal, all these divisive labeling, those were beautifully
Old school.
invented, right, what I lovingly call the old worldview thinking. They were invented from old worldview thinking. Now, as a humanity, as we elevate our own consciousness, as we evolve ourselves, and we start to think from the quantum perspective, and the best, absolute great thing about not the best, but a lot of good things, genius of the quantum worldview is that the science is now verifying the ageless wisdom. We could say ancient, you brought it up earlier. The ageless wisdom, the universal wisdom that is, quote, truth that we know each of us in our hearts when we hear it. It's like, yes. And the science is now verifying it is one interconnected, systems of systems. Everything is alive with consciousness. We are connected to the earth, of course, as a living being, that the earth is host to our lives. So when you're old worldview thinking, and it's more in a concept, like it's a physical, like a separation thinking, where you start, I can throw this garbage in the ocean. I'm looking at the ocean because we live with, so I have a great love for the ocean, as most people do. that you don't just trash the body, the mother that is literally hosting our lives, and of course all the infinite creatures of the earth. You don't do that. So when you start to quantum think, when you have this awakening, collectively, you start to just have different behavior. No one has to tell you not to shoot someone. I mean, I'm being kind of obvious.
No, I get it.
Yeah, and so this is what happens, and
it's a change. We're experiencing this huge change, but I think, especially a lot of the younger generation, they're in the middle of this change and they don't know what to do, right?
That's right.
It's kind of like, well, how do I react? And I think you talked about it really good in the book too. And this is a change from life living you into you living your life.
That's exactly right. And what I wanted to get back to that thing, what you were saying about change, because this is the most dramatic transformation that any of us, of course, alive today have ever witnessed or even known of. I mean, I'm sure there have been throughout the different ages of humankind. But we're in this now. And, so many people, the esoteric teachers, are saying that it's different now. If you want to talk in those terms, the light, right, being elevated and a higher frequency and all that. But if you and I like to bring it all together to ground us. But when you look at those institutions that you could say have reached their level of effectiveness, because now we are in this more connected, thank goodness for our technology that makes your show possible. And you start to, here's what I want everyone to just, who focus in on, to inspire yourself with and make everybody feel better about this, is that there has to be some disassembling, right? Some dissolving of the old, in order for the new to emerge. So that when we look in the world and we see everything, and by the way, this is astrological, that we're in this time of restructuring, and we're in a 16-year period that started in 2008, exactly at the time when Obama became president of USA, and throughout 2023, but it's always cycles upon cycles. So things vibrate longer, but the focus is the restructuring of societal institutions. And this means government institutions, corporate, but the other aspect of it has to do with integrity. So, and integrity means soundness. So when all these things that we're seeing in the news every day, I mean, my husband, Alan Collins, master quantum think coach, I always like to say, partner in all things in business and everything in life, that when he can't even look at it, I mean, I'm not attached to it because I like to take this cosmic view. It still affects people emotionally, right, Debbie? But when you take the bigger perspective and you can see, okay, as I say in Do You Quantum Think, we're going to evolve. Is it going to be, we're going to wake up. Is it going to be crisis awakening or conscious awakening? Now we're here on this show, on this radio network, pushing Cameron's Contact Talk Radio, because I love Cameron, because we're here to create the new narrative of awakening so that we can have a conscious awakening, so we don't have to have, the 2x4 keep crashing us over the head. But in the meantime, we've got the crisis awakening. And that's the thing too, I say, everything that's about integrity, tyrannical leaders, dictatorships, things that have been hidden, like, that are all getting exposed, and the media is paying too much attention to it, but whatever, that we don't have to latch onto that and think that's our new reality. No. Right. And that's what come back to what you said, Todd. We're here to be the force, not to be, oh my God, it's coming at me. What am I going to do? We're here to be the force in what happens.
Right.
And the force isn't so reactive. The force is very intentional, as you said, very conscious oriented, not just saying, wow, there's drama in front of me. I must, take out my sword and go for it. I think you're really speaking to the idea of shifting because we choose and know we can, as opposed to when people make shifts because it's the only better thing available. You're talking about something really, really different. We can make these choices. We benefit from these choices. This is a higher realm. Or as someone used to tell me, I think this was Alan Collins, sweetie, he used to say, you can get into the elevator and rise to the highest floor. You're not saying that the others don't matter. You're making a choice of the view and perspective that really resonates with you. And at first I said, Alan, that sounds like a bit of an emotional bypass. And he says, I'm not saying that you can't spend any time there, because you probably need to. But if you start your day saying, I'm going straight to the top, I'm starting with that clearest perspective where I can see as much as possible, well, you might enjoy your day, 10 times better than if you just do the same thing again and again. And for me, that's always just padded the day with a lot of comfort that choice is a big leap as opposed to selling out.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. I do want to take just a minute, and if you've just tuned in, our wonderful guest today, look at that smile on her face. Look, she's just beaming. Our guest today is Dianne Collins, and she wrote this amazing book called Do You Quantum Think? New thinking that will rock your world. And we've had an awesome discussion for the first part of the show. And if you go to www.Life Mastery Radio, you'll find a link there that will take you right to Dianne Collins' website. And it's real easy to remember. It's DianneCollins.com. And go and check her out. She's got some great programs, you do coaching too, right, Dianne?
I do. I just want to say Dianne with two N's. Very
two
important. There's another Dianne with one N.
That's like Debbie with two
Yeah,
B's.
we do. I work with my husband. He is Master Quantum Think coach, and we do what we call strategic quantum think consulting. But he does most of it. I work with some of our clients. My big thing is I love media. So I produced over, I don't know if I told you this, but I spent the last couple of years, much to his chagrin. I thought it was going to take me a month. It took me already 2.5 years. But I produced a video masterclass called Master Your Mind, Master Your Life. And it's a 28 video program. And this is the thing that I've been working on, because I'm working on now getting it out into the world and marketing it. It is on a platform that delivers such courses, but it's Quantum Think applied to life. So it's depending on how you do it, but let's say you did it for 28 days, 4 weeks, but the 4 themes, it's all about life mastery, Todd. It is right, that mastering the 5 natural faculties of mind, mastering high quality relationships, mastering a conscious relationship with money, and mastering living your purpose. So it's not just about living your purpose, it's about actually mastering it. So yes, to answer the question, I do coaching, but this is the best coaching that anybody can get. Not that I'm not good in person, I am, but for, a very affordable price, if you're with me, I call it the ultimate selfie, but it's really about yourself. I'm the one, right? Because anyway, but it's every day a different topic, a different set of distinctions, but it's all connected. And that is the best. It's like if you took which we all do, and then we go to our next evolution of, it's like to take the best of what I've ever thought of, what I've ever experienced. You have to experience it, otherwise it's right. It's not authentic. And put that out. That's what this is. Master Your Mind, Master Your Life. And by the way, it's DianneCollins.com/masterclass if anyone wants to watch. Lesson 1 is, I put it as a free preview. Cool. And that really is, it's called Create a Quantum Mind Shift. I hope you don't mind that I announced that.
No. I wanted you to plug it because I think your work can help make a huge difference in people's lives. And even the book, your book, Quantum Think. It's not really a book.
I'm kidding.
It's, what did I say? Did I?
You said even your book can help.
You meant especially.
Especially.
Only kidding you, Todd. We have to have fun, right?
Totally. But it's not a book that you just read and get it, right? This is a book to study, and it has 2 parts. And I think in the first part, you focus a lot on what it's like and what it is and what it's not like and how it is we got here. And then in the second part, you have these 21, what do you call them, principles and practices?
Right. Or distinctions and recreations, recreating the distinction in your life. That is the Quantum Think system. That's actually a trademarked system of thinking. So that part 1, I'm saying, part 1, wake up. Why should, I'm kind of like a maverick. Okay, you want me to quantum think? Why should I? And that's what you're talking about, where I'm discussing the situation of humanity, the stories that we live by. There's a chapter, mastery, why do we love the masters? There's a chapter, mind, what is that all about? There's a chapter, wisdom. And then at the end, I'm saying, okay, guess what? You can quantum think. And thank you for bringing it up that way. Really appreciate it, because the idea is that when you say study it, it is, a lot of people say, I call it a friend for life, because what happens, and this is the intent and the intention, Debbie, of all of my work in Quantum Think, is that you give yourself an experience. So what is happening is it's not conceptual. It's not more information. We're already on overload. It's tapping into these principles within yourself. And when you do that, you give yourself an experience of that awareness, of that wisdom that is within each and every one of us, because we are connected to all that is.
Yep. And everything that you're looking for, you already have.
That's exactly right.
I think people, though, are so inundated with information that they feel that all you can do is move on the spectrum of information. So you can take in less, or you can take in more, or you can take in way less and go off the grid, or you can take in a ton and catch up. But you can actually leave behind a whole lot of information and step into what we call experience, and I think for the person that is inundated with the idea that information is living, there isn't this notion of, stepping out of the lake so you can experience the river that's constantly in flow, just to pick a metaphor. But
Right.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying. And there's actually one of the QuantumThink distinctions that I use this sort of technical word, the holo movement of purpose. And what you're saying is, like, if you think of it this way, and that comes from the late great quantum physicist David Bohm, but I want to explain it in a simple way, that we're in an infinite possibility universe. So what does it mean? In every moment, we have a choice as to what we will, bring into consciousness. I think that's what you're talking about, Debbie, is like, I don't have to be on that information that is not giving me the bliss. I can take a different path, take a different choice, go with the flow of what feels right to me. But the idea is that infinite possibility universe. So what this brilliant physicist, David Bohm, B-O-H-M, said is that the reason that we don't see life as one interconnected whole is because there was this movement, that there was this unfolding and enfolding. Because if everything is always here in, possible world all the time, well, obviously we're not taking in all that information, but what are we interacting with? So he said, we don't see it as connected because it goes back into, let's say, the river, right? It goes into another downriver or whatever, but now we're upriver. So we're living this experience. But it doesn't mean that how can I put this in a way that's helpful for everyone? Is that if you want to live in the best state, establish yourself, this is what the spiritual masters say, is to be established in that state of bliss or of, conscious awareness, so that you can choose, is that you can make that choice, and that you don't have to try to get rid of what you don't want or some other way that you've ever identified with yourself, but it will go back into the fabric of that infinite reality, never to be seen again, or as I say,
Bye-bye.
like dematerialize it, let it go back into the ethers. Everything that's possible. So you say, are there good people? Are there bad people? Well, every human being, from this quantum view that I'm saying it this way, I'm not saying the scientists do, but we all have the potential for every possible human trait. The question is, what are we going to manifest? And I think that's what you're talking about. I mean, I said it in a different way. I love your poetic way of saying things, Debbie. But it's really that, right? It's like, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to say, wait a minute. I've been relating to myself like, you know, I call it wretched self syndrome. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. And any variation on that theme. I don't have to latch on to that.
Nope.
Right? I can, okay, leave that information, as you say. That information is not absolute truth. That's just thoughts.
Right.
And as I say, make a distinction between a thought that visits from the surrounding thoughtosphere, as I call it, and a thought that you initiate.
Transform. Right.
And if you want natural training, watch kids.
Totally.
You know, so that's what I love. You know, they're crying. I'm going to see all the kids in my family this weekend for my mother's birthday, so I'm excited about the family reunion. And that's it. They're like, 1 second they're crying their eyes out. The next minute it's like, Boink. Hey, let's go fishing. You know. Mm-hmm. They just leave it behind. They're living in the moment. Is that what you meant?
Right.
Well, that, and I can think of this time when my parents were separated. My brother was only 5. And I remember my brother saying, you know, doesn't Daddy love Mommy anymore? And I said, of course he does. Of course he does. He's just forgotten for a little bit, you know, because that's the truth. You know, if we looked at how they were interacting, it was like, what happened to the love? Well, they just lost track of that a little bit. But, you know, once they stop arguing so much, they'll come around to what's real. And kids don't need to, kids never say to you, oh, hang on to that thought. I think I'll go and read 6 books and come back when I have more info. You know, they just ask a question or say what is in their realm and experience that makes sense. And if we want some natural training, watch them.
Oh my goodness, ladies, we only have about 2 minutes left. This hour just flew by. Dianne, did you create this reality where we were just in this time warp?
I did experience that time warp, like the timelessness. That's one of the distinctions in QuantumThink, beyond time, from tyrant to tool. So you're not at the effective time, but you use it. So we have to use it because you have a schedule, right?
Right. I totally appreciate you showing up today as you today, Dianne. It's just such a joy. You know, I'm going to create the reality where we connect a little more frequently than once every 5 or 6 years. Is that okay?
I love it.
I just love to have you back on the show. I think there are a multitude of other things that we can discuss and inspire others with. And oh my gosh, thank you so much. And keep that smile going, woman. That'll take you places. You know that, don't you?
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everyone who's with us in the conversation, past, present, and future, right?
Cool. Very cool.
I really appreciate it. Love to join you again.
Cool. And you'll be back. That's for sure. Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, any takeaways? Did you get?
Read the book. That's my
big takeaway. Read the book. That's what Debbie says. Yeah, study the book, I think. That's about all we have time for. I hope you enjoyed this show. I think that we brought some great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. And finally, I would really like for you to have a great day and a groovy day. Get in the groove because, like we talked about today, it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye, Dianne. Bye-bye, Debbie. Make it a groovy day.